Hey everyone, Chris here. I'm gonna make another video about some Jaguar stuff. I'm gonna show you guys how mechanically your rear brake system works, or more specifically the caliper and the e-brake. If you've seen my other video about the dealership, you'll understand why I now have what was a perfectly good caliper sitting here. The brief story was that they blew a fuse, and instead of finding that simple fuse, they decided to charge me for an actuator, and then they charged me for a brake caliper because they said it was all broken, which, oh wow, what a coincidence. I went in for a starter and ended up having to replace the starter, which was bad, and replace all of this, which wasn't. To be fair, they were correct. It was painted. I didn't realize that when I bought the car, that these were painted by somebody very poorly, and so when I went to go clean them, all of that paint came off. But that doesn't change the fact that everything worked and worked fine. So I'm going to probably just keep this around. I like to keep the old parts. I won't need them. I won't reuse them because it's just not worth the risk when it comes to your brakes. But all of these seals are still good, and as you can see, everything is still here. Now, when I took it apart, I unscrewed it the wrong way because I was just frustrated and stuck a bit in there and unscrewed it. And when I did that, I caused some scoring, but it won't matter at this point. But I'll show you that right here. In here, that's where I kind of did it. And you can see where I kind of filed it and sanded it down. But it's not a part that's critical, and it wouldn't cause any problems anyway. But let's begin here. So what we have obviously is the entire brake housing or brake caliper piece here, and this is got everything removed from it. You will see here that I have the bleeder valve. The bleeder valve, and hopefully it shows up better. The bleeder valve right here it's just dirty. This has a little tiny hole in the side of it here, and that little hole allows the fluid, when you turn it, to let it bleed, so you can get the air bubbles out and things like that. And this is the little cap that you want to have on there. Sometimes you lose them just because they rot and dry rot, but that goes on pretty much like that. This was a size 11 millimeter, which was surprising because most of these things are 10 or 12 or 13, even 14, but this one was in between. And you can tell here that whoever painted them painted this caliper with them still on the car. Whoever that dumbass was in California that owned this car before sending it to Texas, where I bought it, just didn't really do a good job. They just painted it, and luckily it didn't cause any problems. But it's just cheap work, right? So, and I just didn't notice it because some of these cars do come with red calipers. And when I bought it from the dealership, they assured me, which again, I bought it used, and so that's on me. I should have done a more thorough inspection, I guess, but God forbid I take somebody's word on it. So here, this is the left one. You can see that this is a Jaguar brand part. The dealership said it wasn't. Obviously, they don't know how to read. These are all Jaguar parts. Who would go and make a fake Jaguar and put the logo on there? That just doesn't make sense. So this is obviously the original parts. And I checked the other ones, and they kind of did the same. They painted them all too. But anyway, this is the back here, and this is where the actuator attaches. This is has a little mechanical piece that fits into the back of this part here, and on this part, if you look there, that is what it turns. And when it turns that, this is inside of that, inside the cylinder from the back end. Now there's a bunch of seals in here, and they're very important because without them, it doesn't work right. So this stops right about there. And as what happens is this comes in, it plugs into here. This is stationary. This can't really move, but it has some wiggle in it. And so when this spins, this doesn't move. So what it does is it forces it apart. That's what engages your e-brake. It squeezes it like that. Now, what's really important, and this is how my car most likely got the fuse blown by the dealership, is my car starter had died and the battery wasn't really good. And when I got it there, I put it in the proper procedure to get it towed and everything. When I got it off the car, I had enough battery still in the car to keep the lights on and to keep everything going. So I engaged the parking brake engaged, and I left it there for a week while they ordered the parts. And what I believe happened is I noticed on my app they had gone out to my car and they had opened it because my app showed that the car was unlocked. But then they never relocked it. So I think the battery died or got low. They went to go move it, and while they were moving it, instead of engaging the service mode, they just turned off the e-brake. And as they were pushing it, the battery probably died, or it hit the timer and it went back into sleep mode. Well, that's when it will automatically engage the e-brake when something like that happens as a safety precaution. And I think they were pushing it, That's what happened, and because it was trying to grab while the thing was working, it was trying to grab harder beyond the point that it was supposed to, and it blew that fuse. And since it was a left push towards the garage from where I had it, more than likely more of the strain was on this side than the other side. I don't know. But with that said, let's take a look at the cylinder here. So this cylinder, this is important. This has to be nice and clean and smooth. Over time, of course, it's going to have some wear and things, but overall, it's got to be smooth. And the reason being is because that fluid is held in by this ring here. Now, this ring is one of the most important seals that you're going to have in there, because if this thing leaks or gets dirt in there, that fluid is going to rush past here, and you're not going to get as much brake pressure. Now, on the plus side, damage like that or wear like that, it becomes noticeable. You'll get more of a squishiness, or things will slowly start to feel like they're getting worse. If you're one of those people who just says, "Oh, I'll wait till it breaks," well, by then you're going to be dead. So that's kind of stupid. Anyway, you're going to see here that this fits in like so. And when this fits in, you'll see that this part can't really turn that much, see? So that's why this little scoring here isn't going to really cause too much problems. I rounded it out and smoothed it out in case I ever were, for some reason, have to recycle these parts because I can't get them, because we all know Jaguar is going to crap. This isn't going to really impact it, see, because it's usually sitting in further anyway. So as you turn this, you'll see that now that's when it's not engaged at all. And then as you hear that little electric motor whine going zzz on pretty much all the cars nowadays, that pushes out, and you'll see how it gets further and further away. If you don't have your pads on there, if you have taken your pads off and you have your car's e-brake off and you're running it off a battery, eventually the car is going to say, "Hey, you haven't started me, I'm going to time out." It's going to engage this, and if it does that while your brake pads are off, it's going to push this cylinder out, it's going to tear this seal, and all that fluid's going to go everywhere, and this is going to fall out and get all dinged up. And now you're going to have to rebuild your caliper, because you won't need a new one of these, but you're probably going to need a new seals all around. And depending on if this fell on the ground and got a big nick in it somewhere, you might not be able to use that either. So just keep that aware. One of the things you can do if you don't have one of those fancy $500 computers like I do, to put it in service mode, what you can do is disable the e-brake so it's not engaged, and then you can unplug the wiring harness off the back of the actuator, which the actuator sits on here. It has a little plug on it, and if you see my other video, you'll see what that looks like. So what you'll have to do, though, most likely, is you'll have to recalibrate everything. So when you get everything back together, the car's going to say e-brake and not calibrated. So what you do is you put it, I can't remember the procedure, I'll have to look it back up, but it's basically you put it you have it on but not started, and then you hold the e-brake down, and you do it 3 or 4 times, kind of like similar to the Windows to reset those. And it'll eventually engage all of them and then remove them. You do it a couple times and it resyncs. The dealer will tell you it costs a bunch of money, $1,000. They're full of shit. They just want your money. So don't go to the dealership. So now you're going to see in here, this is where this seal goes, and you want to make sure you use plastic or anything like that to remove it or place it in there. Make sure there's no debris. Obviously, I cleaned this as best I could, but you know, I'm not using it again, so I didn't really go all out. I just cleaned it up enough for doing this video. So if you see how this goes in, it'll sit in like that, and you want to make sure there's no little bumps or parts that get snagged, which kind of happened already, I can tell. So you got to kind of straighten it out, because you can see there, like it might, I don't know if I can get a good shot of it, but the lighting's not the best. Oh, let me see if I can get that a little bit closer. So yeah, so make sure you can feel it. If you go like that and it feels all flush, you're good. So the brake fluid actually acts like a lubricant on that as well. And if you see down in here, you can see all the way down where that little hole is, right there. And that hole, I'll tilt this for you. That little hole right there, that's where the brake fluid comes out. And this is where your brake line attaches back here. And this is where the bleeder valve goes. And the bleeder valve is going to go right on there. That should be snug. Usually hand tight, and you take your little 11 millimeter and give it like maybe not even a quarter. Of course, when you go to the process to bleed everything, you'll know if it's leaking or not. So now that you have that, there's this other ring here. This ring, this is just to keep water and dirt from getting between the actuator and the mount here. You don't get any dirt that gets in here. But And because there's brake fluid that's going to be in here, that probably keeps that in as well. So this is also another important seal. All the seals are really important, let's just be honest. But this is also important, is that you get this put back in order correctly. So you have this little ring here, or washer, this neat little bearing. Look at this thing. This is pretty cool. It's got like these little rollers, and it's simple yet crucial. That will sit in there like that, and then that goes on like that, and then you have this little gasket here that looks like it's supposed to fit right here, but when I removed everything, it was right about here. But this is all going to go together and seat like this, and that's what's going to go inside of here, and this is going to stick up through the top. So when you press this in, you should see right there, and that's where that seal is going to press. So, and then when that actuator goes over there, that's going to turn this, and that's that noise you hear, that zzz, that's it mechanically moving this back and forth. So I'm going to put this all the way down where it should be, and once you tighten it all the way down, you're going to see that kind of turn a little bit. And it looks like I see some scratching here too, so it looks like they probably tried to get, when they went to go take it off, they just jammed a bit in there because they didn't care, because they were charging me for everything. But there's another seal that's this right here, and this catches on the this inner piece right here, just past that other seal, and it's not easy to see, but you can kind of see there's another little lip right there, and that's where this piece is going to fit in. And then that is going to hug around this part of the cylinder. And again, these are important because even though the fluid gets wiped clean by that seal, by that ring, as this actuator goes back and forth, any debris or anything that gets on this would cause it to have problems. So that's what this boot is for. This boot keeps any debris. And of course, this one's a little chewed up because of hyperextending it when I was trying to take it off, and I was just pissed off, and I was like, I'm just going to remove it and take it apart. That's when I messed it up. So, but I didn't really care because I'm not really going to reuse these parts. So what you want to do is get that seated, but if I remember correctly, you want to get this on like so. And it's going to be difficult to do this because it doesn't have any lubricant on it or anything, and I'm kind of just doing this for a quick video. But if this was new, all these parts would be nice and shiny and clean. That's a tight fit, and that's what keeps the debris from outside getting on this when you're braking. And it doesn't move very far, but this is going to be the hardest part to get on. And if I can't do it, I can't do it. But because it can take a little bit of time to kind of finagle that in there. But you'll understand how this all goes together, so that's not too important. So let's get this, place that inside. I feel that seal catching, and then that's going to go like that. And then of course you have to line this piece up, the longer sides to the longer sides. So in this case, I'm going to put it like this, and then like that, and that's going to press in like so. And of course, since it's dry, it's probably not going to go in. That's what she said. All right, so I'll try as best I can for the sake of the video here. But of course, it's gonna, because that seal is on there, it's gonna make this difficult to kind of squeeze in. I'll probably end up tearing that seal trying to force this because I don't have anything in there lubricating it. But you could take some brake fluid and you could put a little bit around there just to kind of make it slide better, or just bearing grease. It doesn't really matter because you're going to wipe it off when you're done. But this would normally fit into there, but because that seal is dry, it's probably not going to go through. But you get the idea. That's how that would all go together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that seal back out and then try it again with just this part. You see how that goes right in? So that seal, that shows you how tight that seal is and how important it is. So that's how it goes, right? So now that you see that, now that you got that brake pressure pushing it in and out with the pads on there, so if you have to take these off mechanically, because let's say your actuator breaks, you would remove that, go to the back with a bit that fits in there, you know, something, I'm not sure, I can't remember what size it is, and then this would turn and that would release that pressure. But if you turn it the other way, it's going to push out, and this is going to go all the way out, and you're going to tear and blow these seals out if you don't have the actuator turned off while you're servicing those brakes. You can put it in service mode if you have the equipment, but if you don't, you're taking a risk by having the car in the on position, because these Jaguars, if you press the on button, they'll wait for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then it'll say, okay, going back to sleep, you can say battery power, and it'll launch out that cylinder. And that is not something you want to deal with. And that's it.